Last night, around 8 p.m. local time, Federal Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes announced a criminal investigation into Elon Musk, the owner of X, formerly known as Twitter, for allegedly spreading disinformation, obstructing justice, and allowing people who de Moraes had banned from social media to freely express their views. De Moraes said he would fine X $20,000 per day for every banned person who Musk allows to speak. As such, de Moraes has taken Brazil one step closer to being a dictatorship. What's more, the events of the last few weeks make clear that Elon Musk is the only thing standing in the way of global totalitarianism. Without free speech, there can be no democracy. If X goes down, we must continue to fight. Today, Facebook actively represses the spread of news. As for the mainstream corporate news media, it's never been more corrupt and totalitarian. With few exceptions, the corporate news media spread disinformation and government propaganda as a matter of policy. And nobody demands censorship more than the corporate news media, which benefit directly from governments shutting down their competitors. Governments are either not protecting free speech or actively participating in the war upon it. Last month, the U.S. Supreme Court held a hearing where the justices made clear that they were fine with the U.S. government pressuring social media companies to censor. Last week, the Scottish government implemented a law to crack down on so-called hate speech, including jokes by comedians. In Ireland, the government wants the power to send police into people's homes to search computers and phones for so-called hate speech. In Canada, the governing Liberal Party wants the power to send people to prison for life for things they've said. And the European Union has empowered a tiny group of bureaucrats to decide what is true and false and engage in mass censorship. All of this is happening at the very same moment that my colleagues and I have revealed that government intelligence organizations are working through NGOs to interfere in elections by spreading disinformation about populist activists and political candidates. In other words, governments are demanding censorship in order to protect their ability to spread disinformation. Making matters worse, governments are directly financing corporate news media. The current Brazilian government is spending 30 times more than the previous government on media advertising in order to spread its disinformation. I never in my life thought I would live to see the rise of totalitarianism in Western countries. A powerful minority of educated elites around the world are demanding the censorship, persecution, and even incarceration of their political enemies. Naturally, they're doing so in the name of saving democracy. The only explanation is that they're in the grip of mass psychosis after years of media propaganda and government disinformation, falsely claiming that populist political movements are undemocratic and a threat to democracy. The fact that the future of free speech rests upon the shoulders of a single individual is not something any of us should want. I do not think that this is a responsibility Elon Musk wants. He would be a far richer person had he never bought Twitter. He would also be living a far more peaceful life. After Musk bought Twitter, the Biden administration and the Democratic Party declared war on him and his companies. Various government agencies filed multiple frivolous lawsuits against him and his companies in ways very similar to the war that the Brazilian government is waging against X. What all of this reveals is that until Musk had bought Twitter, we really didn't have freedom of expression. The US government felt that it controlled both the corporate news media and social media companies. We saw in the Twitter files that the FBI orchestrated a disinformation and censorship campaign in order to protect Joe Biden. Starting with the Cyber Threat Intelligence League, operatives working for the U.S. Department of Defense and the British Ministry of Defense sought to hide their censorship and their disinformation efforts as cybersecurity. After that, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Stanford Internet Observatory engaged in a mass censorship effort around the 2020 elections and COVID. It is today clear that the intelligence and security agencies have been working together around the world to gain control over social media platforms in order to discredit, prosecute, and even incarcerate populist leaders. The evidence is now overwhelming that the FBI and Secret Service are covering up evidence related to the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot in Washington, D.C. And there's still much we do not know about the eerily similar riot in Brazil's capital on January 8, 2022. There's much we need to do to fight back.